We've heard so much about diversity. Now we heard of a great initiative to actually help create women investors and invest in projects across the board. So what is going on with women in entrepreneurship? This next panel is going to be moderated by Molly Cain from Glassheel. And we've got 3 experts in women in entrepreneurship and technology. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to be moderating this next panel. Molly is. I'm an expert. All right, that's fine. I'm an expert too. So Molly's going to be moderating this panel, and we have with us who blacked out? Who's not here? Okay, so Marta and Juan José Güemes are here. Marta is here from SoySuper. Juan José Güemes from IE Business School, and myself also from IE Business School. And we're going to talk to you about where women are today in entrepreneurship and technology. And this is going to be moderated by Molly Cain.
Okay, so as you mentioned, I'm Molly Cain. I came in from Dallas, Texas, so a little ways. I am a venture partner with Sumo Ventures, a $10 million fund out of Dallas. And I am also the CEO of a small company. I usually call it a passion project. I hate calling it a startup because I haven't monetized it very much. But Glassheel, which is focused on women entrepreneurs and business executives, and we target 2 ambitious women. We've got about 10 million views, and I also write under that cover on Forbes about women in leadership. So this is a topic that's a great passion of mine, so I appreciate you guys joining us. I'll let you introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started. Juan?
I'm Juan José Güemes, the chairman of the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center at IE Business School. And previous to joining IE Business School, I was involved in politics, and in a short period of my life, of 4 years, I was the regional minister for employment and gender policies of the region of Madrid. Mm-hmm. And that's why I guess Molly has invited me to join the group and to discuss about this issue.
And our newest panelist, who just found out 5 minutes ago.
Yes, I am Paris Delatraz. I'm the managing director of the Venture Lab at IE Business School. But probably where I can lend some expertise in this subject is because of my research. I do a lot of research around people and their relationship with uncertainty, and that relationship, how it translates to their potential in entrepreneurship. And it's interesting to see the differences in the genders. We also run one of the biggest mobile solutions competition with World Mobile Congress, where about 45% of our participants are women. So I think I can tell you a little bit about what's going on at a global level as well with young people.
We'll definitely dive in. Marta?
And with some surprises.
Marta Esteve, I'm director of SoySuper. Since the year 2000, I'm entrepreneur in technology. First it was Top Rural with my husband, then Rentalia. He was helping me and I was dealing with it. And in 2012, we sold both companies. And now I'm with SoySuper. It's an aggregator of supermarkets. Lots of technology. We are dealing with 6 million prices every day with 13 supermarkets. And you can do the list in the website and send it to the supermarket, and then the supermarket brings it to your house.
So Marta, you've been an entrepreneur for over 15 years.
Yeah.
What was it like as a female entrepreneur the day you stepped foot in there?
The first steps.
Compared to today.
Okay, and I was right after the explosion of the bubble, so you can look for money anyway. My way of entrepreneuring anyway is bootstrapping, always. Lean startup, bootstrapping. My associates, the CTO is my associate, and we don't go to VCs. That's maybe I feel more comfortable with finding first the model and then going for more money. But before we have to find the model. So I didn't see this need, this difference for being a woman in the first company, because a website against clients, and the clients liked it. So it didn't matter if it was woman or man. Didn't have to go to VCs or to a business to sell the product. So it didn't matter if I was a woman or man. It just do a good job, give good value, and the people get it. And then in the next business, we are not going to VCs yet, so I didn't see the difference yet. But with the clients B2B, I do see difference. They would prefer surely a man, a tall man, handsome. But if I could good value, they get it and they hire. So it's I'm happy, and I see in these 15 years I've seen more and more women entrepreneuring in some businesses that the men don't want to get in. So it's I think we are going. We are more than.
To that end, and I'll ask you guys some extra questions, but who here is a female founder? I see a lot of women in the room. What do y'all do? What do y'all do? You're female founders? And you're not raising your hand? Okay. Who hasn't raised their hand and is a founder? Thank you. Okay, we might pick on you later.
But many more will be in the future.
Who wants to be? Done.
You see? This is amazing.
There you go. Okay, awesome. So this is a great panel for y'all. And we'll do Q&A as well. So as they talk, y'all think about, and I'm saying y'all, it's a Texas thing. Okay, so let's dive into your experience in the startup world, what you've seen, the changing landscape, and then we'll dig into a little bit more of the economic data that you have on the benefits to having a woman in charge.
Okay, and Paris was talking about our experience running startup contests all over the world. Our venture days in more than 20 cities. We get deal flow from almost everywhere, and we run this mobile challenge startup competition. Obviously, technology-based business models, and we run it in the Middle East and in Southeast Asia and Asia, European countries, Latin America, and next year in the United States. And as Paris mentioned, 45% of the projects submitted to this contest globally are women-led. Yeah. So I mean, still there is a difference. There is a gap of 5 points, compared to those projects led by men. But I mean, they're not very far away. And there are some surprising results. I was thinking about what happened. You remember Paris in Doha, and this regional final. We had startups coming from almost every Arab country. And there was, I mean, there is a country where the rate of projects submitted by women is much higher than in most of the countries.
That's interesting data.
Guess which country? Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. I mean, indeed, the startup which won this contest a couple of years ago was from Saudi Arabia. And Paris and I had a picture with, this burqa. Ladies wearing burqa, engineers, amazing engineers, a very talented woman. And what I thought is that, okay, these women are not allowed to drive cars, but,
right.
they can be owners. They can be owners, and as Marta explained, they need to face the customer sometimes because they have a B2C business model. They can just sell, and test their startups and try to grow it. Without the handicaps and limitations that they find in the legal framework or in the culture of their countries.
That's incredible.
So I don't know, I mean, globally, there is not high quality data regarding entrepreneurship and female entrepreneurship and male entrepreneurship, but there is at least one attempt, which is the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, and what we know is that at least 37% of the startups which have been launched in the past 5 years or which are being launched right now are led by women, and I mean, and in many countries, I mean, they're creating hundreds of millions of new job opportunities, and an amazing part of the world created worldwide.
Creating jobs over there.
And companies going from self-employment to companies with a huge growth potential. So something is changing. We're still far away and we face challenges, but something is changing globally.
And that's been happening over probably the last 5 years or so, 10?
No, I think that it comes
longer?
from a little bit longer. I mean, probably the biggest, the strongest force of change in our societies in the last 5 decades is precisely the rise of women empowerment. This is something that is completely changing the way we see things, the way we manage governments, companies, and everything. And even obviously it has an incredible economic impact. No? Of course, many countries are far behind what's going on in the United States or some other Western countries. But I mean, if we look in history, just 80 years ago, women couldn't vote in Spain, and 100 and a little bit more women couldn't, didn't have the right to vote in the United States. So, I mean, and this has been the history of women, for the last maybe thousands of years. And in the last 50 years, the most important social and economic change, and it's something that is going to keep going in the coming decades, is precisely the rise of global empowerment of women.
I love it. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I don't want to add anything on the commercial side in terms of what we've seen through our events and things. But if you look at it from a mentality perspective, you saw the children earlier today, how entrepreneurial they were. If you look at our relationship with uncertainty, what does an entrepreneur see in uncertainty?
An opportunity.
An opportunity. So what we found with the other two professors that I'm doing this research on our relationship with uncertainty is that, do you think women are more prepared for uncertainty than men?
I feel like they would accept it more.
Think about, the woman has children, is a woman
Well,
more
let's go
prepared
for
for
it.
uncertainty than men? Beyond a doubt. Is a kid that grows up in the Bronx more prepared for uncertainty than a kid that grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth in some rich house in, the Upper East Side?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
independent of the fact, now that's what we heard in the diversity panel earlier, that maybe women and minorities don't have access to the opportunities to be entrepreneurs, whether because of funding or accelerators or, being invited to, being part of these things. I think that they're better prepared than most people, minorities and women in particular, because their relationship with uncertainty is different. I mean, look at the United States. If you take the Hispanic executives in the United States, 8 out of 10 of them are Cuban. They're not Spanish, they're not Argentinian, they're not Colombian. 8 out of 10 are Cuban. Why is that? Why do you think Cubans are better prepared in the US to be entrepreneurs than Spaniards or Argentines or Puerto Ricans or Mexicans?
Their lives are quite much more uncertain.
These guys came on a boat.
Yeah.
They had nothing to lose. So it's that sort of a mentality that I think is necessary for entrepreneurship, and that's why I think women have a big potential. It's just that it's initiatives like the one we heard about earlier that have to give them the opportunity to do that. But mentality-wise, I think they're better prepared.
I totally agree, and you actually said a very key statement that they sometimes need to be invited. I used to be a banker years and years ago. I wasn't as boring as them. I ran their internal communications. But one day on Twitter, a serial entrepreneur invited me to go around town and explore what the startup space was like in Dallas. A week later, I quit my job. I just fell in love with it. But I attended an event with about 250 people. 2 of us were women. And I was invited by a man to go there, and he was like, look at this room. We need more of you. So it actually has been men that have inspired me to push and go into the startup space. But Marta, how was your entry into the industry? You said you started with your husband?
Yes. I was working for a Coca-Cola multinational, maybe you know, in Belgium, and something was going on. Everyone was looking in internet, and I was like, this is something new, and Coca-Cola won't do it, so we quit our jobs and just go to Spain. And we came to Spain to make a rural tourism website. So we just from scratch. And we didn't know anything about the sector or about internet. So I said, I'm going to look for a job more conventional. The women takes the job to learn, and then the men. And I was in a startup, from T Online, learning what to do in internet, how to do it. And Francois was beginning Top Rural. And we talked with people who knew about rural sector to advise us. And we began just like from scratch.
I love it.
Everyone was saying to France, so what are you doing? Go to Spain, you don't know about Spain. go to tourism, you don't know anything about tourism. But you can learn, you go to a new sector, you get advisors from that sector. And technology, if you like technology, you can talk to the engineers and understand each other. If they know the subject, they will explain it very well. And if you know how to explain yourself, I mean, there's
I love it. So
there's a way.
we followed a great panel about women investors, and that's probably driving a lot of invitation. These lady founders in the room, or prospective lady founders, now can see that there's funding. How have you guys seen that change in your region?
Well, there are a number of successful investors here in Spain. So the industry is quite new, early stage investment, and I could say that I mean we can mention several women, but interestingly, venture capital industry, regardless who is managing the company, is paying more and more attention to women-led startups and women markets, let's say. And indeed, there are several funds in the United States working since many years ago that only invest in women-led startups. You know, that's
And there's data around that.
yeah, there is data around that. What they found out is that companies which have more women among founders are more likely to succeed. So I mean that
Do you know-
that's a good reason. I mean we
Yeah.
don't have a complete explanation of why it happens. You know, we may think that obviously.
There's
I mean,
some assumptions, yeah.
if at the end of the day, if you like the best talent, you cannot just ignore half of the society. You know, and at least half of the talent is among women. So if you ignore that, it is very likely that you don't get the best talent. You know, that's probably an explanation for this higher probability of succeeding in among startups with more women among founders. You know.
I like that.
There's a fund called in the United States called Isabella Fund. Isabella Fund. It takes the name from Isabel la Católica. Isabel la Católica was a queen of Spain 500 years ago, and Christopher Columbus convinced her to sell her jewelry to finance the most profitable venture ever, which was the discovery of the Americas,
Right.
for Spaniards, and so somehow she became the first venture capitalist, and
That story is
and that's
never
why,
told.
yeah,
I
and that's
really
why
like that
they
angle.
call this fund Isabella Fund, and indeed
I love
the motto of the fund is Tanto monta monta tanto, which was like the motto of their kingdom, Fernando and Isabella. So by the way, Isabella married Fernando, who was the king of Aragon, but she never let him put his hands on Castilla kingdom.
Somebody tweet that. That's great.
It's good, isn't it? Women empowerment.
I love it. So we always notoriously, and I know I just mentioned a female investment fund that was sitting up here, which is incredible, and I loved seeing that. And we've got many of those sprouting in Texas and the United States, of course. But notoriously, we talk about how hard it is for women to fundraise. We have a different personality type, or we're scared to ask, or all sorts of things that they blame us for. But what do you guys think? And I love having the male perspective on here. Are there any tips that you can give a female who's interested in fundraising and has read the press and might be intimidated by that thought? I know that's a loaded question.
I think that, well, I mean, my advice is that they just jump into it. But I think this is going to be a natural progression. If you look, a lot of people ask always, why is Silicon Valley different to Europe? And the reality is that in Silicon Valley, the investors, most of them are ex-entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So they understand entrepreneurs better. So you've got an ecosystem there of investors that are primarily ex-entrepreneurs. We're just starting to have that in Europe. The majority of the venture capitalists in this continent are ex-bankers. That's a different mentality because they're looking at numbers. And it's also a different mentality in terms of, the bankers world is primarily male. That's why a woman, it's not unnatural to see women in venture capital or these funds because most of these guys are coming from banking. But this is going to change, and now we're seeing increasingly people who are successful as entrepreneurs becoming investors. And successful women will become investors, like in the case of María Eugenia Girón. She is probably one of the most successful women entrepreneurs in this country, and she's now becoming an investor. And that
Pay it
is
forward.
how you create, women investors in the future. So that's going
Absolutely.
to take time.
So the more successful female entrepreneurs, the more that go into the system. We have several that are doing that in Texas too. It's a much younger startup community than Silicon Valley, of course. But we also talk about the bros that are out there in California and then in Texas, of course. So it's really nice to see that you've got more and more growing here. I like that. So Marta, you haven't fundraised outside in a VC.
No, once I asked a VC woman, and I asked her, what's the difference between a business plan from a man and a business plan from a woman? And she said, well, really there's a difference. Women don't go like a bunch of a team. It's many times they go alone or with one maybe, and they are not so aggressive. They are very conventional, and they ask for less money. So I think if a woman wants to go to VC, has to be aggressive and go with a bunch of very good professionals with expertise, not alone, not smooth. It's another
That's
world.
interesting. What do you think, Juan?
If I can add to,
Yeah.
Juan just told a story earlier about Doha and one of the groups from Saudi Arabia. I mean, it's true. It's amazing in Saudi Arabia how many women are entrepreneurs. But I'll never forget this final. There was the winner in Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you were there, Juan, but she was trying to raise money and she was pitching to the investors. And there she was, covered in black with just her eyes.
Wow.
She was an engineer from one of the top universities in Saudi Arabia. And this guy in the white garb, the big investor sheikh, he said to her, why should I invest in you? You're 22 years old. Probably in a couple of years you'll start having children, and there goes my money.
Oh my goodness.
She looked at him and said, maybe you're talking about your daughters, but not me. And he was just like, wow.
Imagine, Saudi Arabia.
That's fantastic.
Saudi Arabia.
She
Yeah.
practiced that one.
She came to Barcelona with us, and she
I
had
love
an
it.
incredible startup.
They sound like amazing women. They're very cool. Okay, so we have 3 minutes left. Does anybody have a question? Do you want to throw something out?
Questions, opinions? Anything you'd like to share with us?
So, okay, let's pick on these two up front. Why are you guys interested in this panel? Go aggressive.
No, I had a question though.
Okay.
Can I ask it?
Perfect.
You said that men help to go into entrepreneurship, and I was just wondering, what do you think what are their roles in women in entrepreneurship? What do you think? How do you think they should help? Or
It's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So I actually had this conversation 2 nights ago over dinner with a female founder that we connected on LinkedIn. And I said that men make the greatest feminists because they can totally fight for us, and they can make us. Some of my best mentors are men, and they'll tell me Molly, you were being an idiot. Just go do the thing that you want to do. And sometimes you need that tough talk, and your female friends will be like, it's okay, it's all right. But a male mentor...
More aggressive.
I get it often. But a male mentor might give you a different perspective.
Yeah.
And they really are the strongest feminists in a lot of ways, because if they're speaking on behalf of us, they can help open those doors. They'll open the door and you can walk right through. It's not a requirement at all, but it's certainly helpful to have guys like these on stage that can help your career. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
You guys. The best ones will. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
Hello, thank you. My name is Laura. My question is, in terms of risk, we as a woman, we are really criticized about the risk taken. We are really careful about money and about the decisions that we make. What is the right amount of risk, for a woman to, not for a woman, it's for a person or for whichever, but we as a woman, they see us like you are not gonna be good enough because you are not gonna be a risk taker, in this. So what do you think it will be a nice tip to fight that? Thank you.
Do y'all want to weigh in? Good question.
Well, a risk taker. I mean, from my point of view, and this is my modest opinion, a risk taker is a gambler. It's not an entrepreneur. You know, you need a risk manager, someone who really knows how to manage the risk he's taking. And I don't know. I don't see difference between women and men. I wonder if you know, coming back to what Patty said, if sometimes it is a matter of perception and the environment, you know, the social atmosphere toward women, and that the women feel they're not, but sometimes they feel that they are not so capable to go ahead and succeed in creating a startup, you know. But it is not because there is something in the nature of women that prevent them from being entrepreneurs and managing risk, but because maybe, and Marta and I were, do you like to tell the story about your girls coding and I mean, sometimes we don't fully realize them, I mean, but we don't tease it, but something's in the atmosphere that prevent women from doing things that men, children do naturally.
Lots of times it's in our head.
Even in countries such as the United States and Spain, indeed.
God,
I mean, women graduating from science and technology programs, I mean, fell by 50% since the 80s in the United States, and something's probably happening in other Western economies. And what's the reason? I mean,
There's a huge push on STEM and STEAM topics in the U.S. for sure. It is a great loss that we've lost a lot of women in the engineering and math and sciences, but we're seeing something in the U.S. Like, we're about to have, this is a political opinion, but we might be possibly about to have our first female president ever, which would be amazing. I you know, take her for what you will, but it's showing a lot of those little girls like, what the hell, I'll just go all the way. So the more we can see that, and Sally Ride said it best, you can't be what you can't see. So the more times that you see a woman doing that, and the risk gets a little less large in your head. Yeah. Anybody else? I see our timer is totally up, but nobody's pulling us off stage. We could do one more. Anybody? Y'all have any? We gotta go. Cool. We're kicked off.
thank you.